Hey everyone, I'm Wa.
And I'm Chris, and welcome to Docu Sweeties.
We're two longtime friends who discuss the riveting and sometimes trashy world of reality TV and docuseries.
Yes, but through our own lens, which can be peppery, acidic, salty, bitter, but at the end of the day, hopefully mildly sweet. Hello, everyone. We are going to give you, honey, it's brand new docu series, and I'm going to say, I guess, no trigger warning, unlike the other ones, unless you have PTSD from being a victim of this person himself, which is Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff, the monster of Wall Street. This is episode 1, A Liar, Not a Failure, and this is on Netflix. So
Yeah.
you want to watch along?
So it says season 1, episode 1, and I'm like, what is season 2?
You put that there, and I just pretended it wasn't real because I was
Yeah,
like, "There's no
no,
season 2," so I just didn't say it. Well, I didn't say
it
it.
says it on Netflix. So I put it there just in case there is a season 2 and then we didn't have like weird, whatever. So
Mhm,
just for
mhm,
those of you guys who know, like I was continuity's sake, I'm trying to like keep things
mhm,
in line in
mhm.
order for my hard drive. Okay, so I didn't know, I could not remember anything about this person. Like I knew that there had been some financial crime that had occurred, and but I couldn't like tell you what this person did. So we start off as a Palm Beach story. You know what it is? Go
I
ahead.
can tell because I wrote that note. Yeah, so we start with the guy telling a story, and he's like, "Look, I remember I was with my mom. I was at Palm Beach. It was a country club. And over there, Bernie Madoff, my mom was like almost like a little fan, like, oh, there's Bernie Madoff, And I looked over and Bernie Madoff came over and he like was talking to people and he was whatever. He was very, very nice. And then afterward, my mom looked at me and she said, he is wonderful, but he never looks at you in the eye. And that stayed with him. Yeah, he never looked at me in the eye. And this is a man talking about obviously his first interaction with the man that we would be documenting and having the subject of, which is Bernie Madoff. So later on, we'll find out why he's in Palm Beach and what he preyed upon. But basically, we'll tell you this: Chris, who you're listening to now, I knew this story. My dad's a wealth manager. And so I knew the story already, and I knew some of the like details of what had happened. What's your background?
I am not a wealth manager's daughter. My dad does not do that, and he's terrible with money. So I don't know anything about this. I moved to New York City in 2008, and that is the year that the big cracking of the Madoff case happened. And so obviously New York City is Gotham City. So when there's front page news of stuff, it's like, "Hey, Mister, you got a penny for a magazine?" Like they literally, New York City is the only city that I have been in where newspapers and periodicals are in constant motion. There are actually paper stands where people have whole little booths where you get the paper and they give it to you for free on the subway. It's free. Certain periodicals, so or certain newspapers. So I did see Madoff in big letters. I knew he was a big bad wolf. I know that he had done some crazy white collar and like stole people's pensions, stuff like that. But I didn't have any of the nitty gritty details. So watching this is like really interesting thus far in figuring out how this man did this, and it's also just like the really dirty side of like American capitalism. Like the way they let him get away with stuff. It is just so shocking. And I'm somebody who, whenever I'm like, oh, that person did it, other people have done other things and they're doing it currently. Like they've just figured out a new way to do it. So there's a new somebody who's doing something shady on Wall Street now, and who didn't get caught when Bernie got caught, and learn from his mistakes. It's just like a wild west sort of situation to me. That's what it feels like, in an area that I have absolutely no concept of.
Yeah, greed's a whole ass thing as part of human nature. And Ponzi schemes are destined to fail because and it's just I always think about how do you even enjoy your life in the sense of the worry and anxiety that any moment everything could come falling apart. But however, we aren't Bernie Madoff, and he is a whole ass person that's different from us, and we'll talk about it. So this starts a little bit with like going back in time to like now that memory of him happened. But this is who the man is. The man is an old man who's being accused of a crime, and we're seeing footage of him shoving photographers. And what makes this story different is the sociopathic way in which that he pursued his crimes, which the only moments of sensitivity he has seems to be perhaps with the idea of his family, but even that goes to show that maybe his narcissistic nature just missed their love. So yeah, he is a serial financial killer. He is a financial sociopath. They say in the documentary that in 100 years from now, people will remember this story. And why? By 2023, honey had already forgotten it.
Yeah, like I want to tell you right now, because I'm not, I yeah, I was there. I was there when it happened, and I can tell you right now, I have like slight memories of it. So it'll rock America's financial world for the next 100 years. Those who are in finance, someone will write. There've already been written books. I'm sure he's in textbooks now, in wherever people who work on Wall Street go to college. You know what I'm saying? They're going to teach about him. So that's what I think mean. So the future theater majors may not know about him in 100 years.
Unless they came up with like some crazy Madoff mirror exercise where you're like, and then you steal. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so let's move on. So 64 billion is what they say the number that was gone. However, my dad was very quick to point out that's not true. 64 billion is what he said he made for them. Never existed. So the truth of the matter, 64 billion is not, they're going to erase the number, but the truth is, it's not that much money. It's still a lot of money, but it's not that much because he lied the whole time. So he would say that you're making money, but like what you think existed never existed. And what was actually there, what actually was tangible cash that was invested to him that was lost. I think it looks around, I think it said like 28 million. So billion.
Billion. Yeah.
So we have a couple of different panel docu-series talking heads. One's going to be Andrew Ross Working, who's a New York Times reporter, John Campbell, who is a writer for a Madoff documentary. We have a couple of writers of Madoff, not documentaries, that doesn't make sense. Autobiographies. Oh, biographies. Yeah. I got the right word right. Go ahead, Wa.
No, just books. I was going to say books.
Okay, great. So now this documentary is going to start with the day that he's arrested, right? And then it's going to go back and tell you how it works. So the day he's arrested, it's like the FBI. The next day they go into what they will describe as the lipstick building, which is, of course, is where the offices of Madoff was, specifically on 2 floors, the 19th floor and the 17th floor. They go to the 19th floor, which is the normal floor, and they said it looked like fucking apocalyptic Frankenstein. Like they looked like they say it resembled the scene from Frankenstein where villagers want to kill a monster. And I thought, oh, so the scene in Beauty and the Beast where they're saying, kill the beast, because that's a relevant reference for me. So but basically, yeah, like the day that he's arrested, Wah tells you the newspapers go crazy, the FBI goes to the office, and people have read the newspaper that have money with him that are in the bottom stairs of the office being like, where's my money, you know what I'm saying? Like angry ass peeps. And like the FBI had to go through them. They're yelling at the FBI is like, okay, they have to go upstairs, and they realize that like they have to treat everything like it's a crime scene. You can't even take anything away because they don't even know what they're looking at yet, like, and what makes sense in which place. And there's just all of the workers that were there are scrambling around. The FBI does not know who knows what, who knows who, like what is what. They're crying, they're screaming. Some people like feel like they have to go downstairs and talk to the angry villager investors, you know, but like in my mind I was like, what are you going to tell them besides we don't know anything unless you know something. But the FBI talks about what Bernie Madoff's look like. So his legit business is a beautiful gray and black themed office. Everything is like fancy, nice. He has Liechtenstein prints everywhere. There's a bull statue, which is like a bull and bear market. The bull is a market that is like forging ahead, making money is good. A bear market, not so great. So a lot of wealth features, not wealthy, wealth advisors or whatever have those options in there. Sorry, those whatever
Images,
images.
images.
He has a print. He has a screw. The FBI guy is like, yeah, the bull to me like wasn't so much a bear market. It was just about his bullshit. And the screw, I just was like, he wants to screw everyone.
Yeah, that was so dumb. I was like, sir, you no, sir, shut up. I really thought like I'm gonna tell you right now.
What?
I'm gonna tell
Say it.
you right now.
Tell me.
I know that he's a bad person, but I don't view him as one. I don't
I'll
have
change your mind. I'll change your mind by the end of this.
yeah. I just like I'm just like yeah, I don't I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay,
And I know he
this
is.
is why I'm gonna, and I'll get the at the very end, but this is why it is. Why? What if you and your dad?
No, I know that he's a bad person. What I'm saying is that
Can I finish my
because
thing?
oh yeah, go ahead.
Specifically screwed over out of everyone in the entire world. A lot of people, but a lot of Garifuna people. I guess it's like it's easy. I mean, not easy. Listen, we go to war all the time with people who look different, right? Or are different. You know, like human nature is so that like you can somehow debase someone to think that they're better than you or not you, or just like someone exists somewhere else. It's not important or whatever. But I guess for me, I guess is that Bernie Madoff fucked over everyone total, including his family, including like Holocaust Jewish survivors, and he's Jewish, like I'm not Jewish. I guess I'm like, and obviously you're not either, but it's like you're gonna fuck over your, I mean, your own people, like, and the lowest of the low of your own people in the sense of like the poorest of the poor, or like people who like don't have anything. It just that's I guess why he just yeah, you know.
No, I agree with you. What I'm saying is that I'm because I'm used to watching documentaries where the person has physically harmed somebody. Like we've seen a lot of documentaries thus far, at least I have, where it's easier to hate somebody immediately if they have if they've unalived somebody. I mean, I'm not on TikTok, I can say the word. If they've killed somebody, if they've like murdered children or molested children or like whatever, like because of the type of crime he has, right? I haven't finished it yet. I'm on episode 3. I am just like taking in the mechanics of what has gone on, right? So I'm just in the thick of learning what he's done. I know he's ruined people's lives, and I think that once we get more than just that one guy who cried with his wife, but when I get further into it and I start to see his victims, I'm going to feel that way. I'm just saying right now, that is where I'm at. Because they're like laying out his life at this point, and the FBI. So where Chris left off is the FBI has raided the Lipstick Building, and so we're in 2008, and we start off with the FBI not knowing who knows what and who to hold in the office, and there must have been some support because it's how deep and how much money he laundered and took and did whatever. But I think what's interesting is as you watch it, you realize that like the FBI, yeah, somebody on the 17th, on the 19th floor must have known, but most of them didn't. They were on the wrong floor looking for the people who knew at that point. They were on the wrong floor. So the women who are crying because they don't know what's going on and why they're being raided. So then we go back in time to like give the backstory of him. He's the son of Jewish immigrants from Queens, and they just come out of the Great Depression. They talk about the war and the 50s and how like there was this like burgeoning middle class in the suburbs, and this is like the boomer generation. And so so I was like, boomers, you know how I love to talk about boomers. Madoff is a boomer. And so we talk about his parents, Ralph and Sylvia, and how like he was an awkward guy, and he paid some girl 25 cents when they were little to play with her, which I was like, That feels weird that you would pay a little girl, and then it
Did
made
she
me
take
wonder
it?
about, huh?
I was like, "Did she take it, honey?" And, like, tell me more about that little girl,
That's
I like
but didn't also it made me go, oh, I wonder how many mistresses he had and how many other women he's paid to do services for him.
so
Like
many.
that's literally where my mind went when they put this seemingly innocent story in here about him paying a little girl 25 cents to the next door neighbor to play with him. And then I was like, oh my God, he started early.
Mhm. Yeah, like, at one point, he's like, "Yeah, he robbed Peter to give to Paulette, honey, the back page escort that he gets a massage from every night, honey." That's who gets, like I bet, like, he just, like, kept half of the New York, like, escort
In
people
business.
afloat. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, yeah, the 50s has this, like, we want peace, we wanna, like, have nice things, we wanna spend money, like and we
Consumerism.
yeah, listen, that's the time, and every time if you think I don't wanna be alive in the 50s, you're wrong because it feels like I would have, like, enjoyed, a poodle skirt, which is what probably Ruth was wearing, honey, because he ends up meeting his wife in a basement sock hop party. Like a sock hop. Grease lightning. In my mind, I'm like, "Oh, he's, like, straight up Danny?" She's like, I don't know, she's blonde, so she really could be, um, what's her name?
Olivia Newton-John.
I know, but what's her name?
Oh,
Sandy.
Sandy.
Um, now they're gonna start to paint, obviously, the portrait of this man. Also, they're going to show us a version of Bernie, which is a reenactment actor. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this is now a choice this docuseries makes, and I hate it.
A choice.
It's a choice. It is reenactment actors, a lot of it. And they got a man that Bernie, and he's gonna either like slow runway walk to camera, and there's gonna be also copious slow motion scenes of people in the office, interns, either like getting happy, working, being scared. It's like, and I swear to God, I think I see someone I know in one of the extra scenes. Um,
Hilarious.
but yeah, so Bernie's dad like couldn't feel like he couldn't get his shit together. He was kind of like a failure to launch. He would have businesses and like it didn't really work out. He would have liens on his homes, and it made Bernie himself feel very uh obligated to be successful, that he wanted money, that he wanted this, and of course, he had paid that girl. He knew what it was like that you can kind of like get things by money. At some point, he was a lifeguard. Maybe there's something about feeling like you can take care of people, or like the ego of like saving people could be a part of it. Yeah, he meets Ruth Madoff, he will get married to. Now, Ruth's dad was wealthier than Bernie's dad, and therefore it's a little bit of that thing where like he didn't think that Bernie was good enough for Ruth or whatever. Like he ran a whole successful, it's like some sort of firm that also has accountants. Like it just feels like it's a very big business that Ruth's dad runs. And basically, for some reason, Ruth falls in love with Bernie, which I don't understand why. She was so young, probably, just like couldn't have sex. Maybe like, I don't know idea, like in the 50s, who knows? So they get married, and he gets a job there at Bernie's father-in-law gives him a job. Um, anyway, so when he does that, he starts learning how to trade over the counter stocks. Okay, so I had to ask my dad about the fuck over the counter stocks meant. And this is what he said. He said over the counter stocks were not what is considered like the S&P, like New York Stock Exchange, like major stocks or smaller stocks. That over the counter stock market would end up being what we now call NASDAQ, the NASDAQ market. So, like
And they were like really cheap. And then there was also like pink paper. So he would like write it down and then you would like mail it to them. So it's like, how now we're just used to like stock market being so like quick. It didn't used to be quick like that. It was like you would call a guy and you'd be like, hey Joe, I see you've got some Vicks, not Vicks. You've got some like
see, I see what's in here. I see what you see.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the things like trying to say, like, I'm like Amazon, Vicks, Vaseline. No, I see you've got some stock in
Procter
pigtails.
and Gamble. Oh, okay. I know
And how much are they? And the dude's like, they're 12 cents stock. And he's like, cool, I would like 10. Like, and then you hang up the phone, and then that person like fills out a piece of paper, mails it, puts it in an envelope, licks that envelope, close it, put on a fucking stamp, writes your address on it, and mails it to you. And that is how you get the stock. So it's very just like, it's, you could do whatever you want. You could just say and do whatever it is that you freaking wanted, because it's literally the Wild West. And so he is working for his father-in-law, and then he starts to like take some of the father-in-law's best clients and take their money, and he's like has a fake not a fake, he has an unregistered wealth management company, and he is taking that money, and then when people call in the debt, he is taking that money and then giving it to somebody else. So he robs Peter to pay Paul. So in his wealth management, he doesn't actually sell not a stock. He doesn't take that money and put it in somewhere and then like make the stock deal and then give them back returns. He's just kind of like funneling money to and fro and then taking a commission. Go ahead.
Okay, so there are two things here, one thing is, okay, so I can take it back. So you are either a stock person, like a stock broker, and you are registered as a stockbroker. You buy and sell stocks, right? Now, the other thing you can be in this tale is a wealth manager or a registered financial advisor, and your fiduciary is to the client. If you are a stockbroker, you make money through commissions, the trades in which each trade. If you are a wealth manager or a portfolio manager, you should, I'm assuming, and in this case, from what I know, you charge a percentage-based commission on the overall portfolio that you manage. So it doesn't make a difference how many allocations you do in a year. You're not charging the person per allocate or per change you're making. It's just like, this is what I manage. This is the 1% I have my incentive to make more money. I make you more money that way, as opposed to a stockbroker who might have incentives maybe to make extra trades to make more commissions and have it be not necessary. Okay, so here is Bernie now having an unregistered advisor, secret advisory fund where he is investing stocks, but their stocks are not great stocks. They're in fact wildly speculative, and it's like a very, very risky maneuvers, and you can think about whatever they'd be like in the 50s and 60s. I would say for in 2022 and 2023, you could just say crypto.
Yeah.
That's, it's interesting how things change. So basically, this is what happens. In 1962, the market drops and his portfolio immediately loses like $30,000, which is like a lot in 1960s terms.
Yeah.
You do the math. This is where it gets crazy. So that is horrible and would have just like normally shown someone like a huge failure, whether they got over it, whether they had to learn, whatever it is. But this motherfucker gets his dad-in-law to give him the $30,000 that he missed. And so he never tells anyone that he suffered that loss. He just puts the money there. It's like, look, I weathered the storm. And then all of his portfolio people are like, wow, he's a genius. And it's like the first installment of this man very intensely failing, but then somehow forward up the ladder, which is maddening. Wow.
And the reason why that his father-in-law did that is because he lost the money from the father-in-law's friends, or like people he had business with prior. So he didn't want his son-in-law to look like a failure. So he gave him the money so that he can pay them all off, and to, make sure that they've still had faith in him. And because he got them through the crash of 62, they gave him even more money. And so he just kept giving them fake numbers, like, hey, your stock did this well today. And he was giving back like a certain percentage that nobody else could match. But it was like, this is all very hush hush. You cannot tell anyone that I'm doing this or that I'm doing this for you. Like, not at all. Like, we, whatever. So he starts to make money, and and he's like taking a percentage, because he's not actually doing anything with the money. It's like they're giving him, like, it's like me giving Chris $60,000 and thinking that she's like making money with it, and then she sends me like a text saying, hey, you now have $63,000, made you $3,000, you're good, girl. And I'm like, oh, continue. So then you tell me next month, oh, now we're at $70,000. Meanwhile, the money that I've given her, she's like doing whatever the fuck she wants to do with it.
Oh, I'll show you the honey, my Botox, my nails, my hair, like maybe a little like lift here, honey, like up and down. I'm getting the top to bottom treatment with that 60K, babes.
And they never see any of that money because, as you know, when you invest in stocks, like you just kind of let it do its thing. Like you're not pulling it out every month trying to like, I'm using a word I don't know, dividends. You're not pulling money out every month trying to like use that money. You're keeping it in there. If your stock is going up, you'll only just make more money. And then when you realize it starts going down, then you like pull the money out. So because his stocks never actually went down, or his whatever he was doing with the money never actually went down, because he was never actually doing anything with it. He was just giving them fake information. It's like wild.
Also, yeah, it is wild. Also, God, it's so interesting. Also know this, a lot of people will leverage all of their money to make more money. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people will, the concept is compounding interest and being able to like, realize capital gains. So like, it's makes financial sense to take as much money as you can and let it do work and make money for you, which is why this can be so devastating for people, who don't feel, who, and here's the other thing, I would say, who aren't doing their due diligence. But as we hear, when you cannot, again, have access to see the money, like Law says, like what you are relying on is like electronic or paper statements. The fact, as we get on, there will never be electronic access from any of these people, and the statements that they get are on like computer paper from like Scantron 90s, like
No,
it's just crazy.
From like the 80s, because like it was like it, because think about it, like in the 60s, it's all pen and paper, it's all like ledger books, it's like it might as well be an inkwell and a man in a like with a leather bound binder from like the 1800s. Like technology when it comes to bookkeeping has not changed very much until the computer age. So he's like just fubbing things up on a typewriter and just like sending them via UPS. Your mailman's coming giving you this information. So then we start to get more of an information about like how he's doing this and how he's earning the trust of all these people and he's making money, but really he's just stealing people's money and doing with it what he will. And we have a lot of just bad reenactments where we have like a guy who's like smoking a cigarette, and this man has never had a cigarette between his lips or his fingers ever in his life. I was just so distracted.
I didn't see that part, but like when you
yeah, just so distracted. So he gets referrals from his father-in-law. Then he starts to work with accountants who are just greedy AF. These two little greedy motherfuckers. He starts to work with them on the side. And and especially when his father-in-law retires, then there's nobody truly there to watch what he's doing. So him and these two little greedy accountants just start to rack in the money. And then it turns out that's like $4 million. Now, this whole entire time, Bernie's like, don't put my name on shit. Don't ever write down what we do. These are all phone conversations. We're meeting in public. We're maybe writing it on a napkin and we're burning it immediately. Like there should be nothing that ever says anything. But these two stupid accountants who get greedy, someone creates a pamphlet. And a pamphlet is circulated, and then somebody from some government agency or the police get this pamphlet, and they're like, what is this? So they look up that thing. They look up the Madoff's fake, his business that it's unregistered. And they call in the two guys, and the two guys are just like, no, it's not me. It's like, they're like, first of all, as soon as the cops talk to them, they completely fold. They're like, when they're like, how much money have you guys made or taken or whatever, through this business? And the police think that they're going to say like $5,000, $10,000. They say like $4,367.25. So like, they're like, oh my God. So they go after Bernie, and for whatever reason, Bernie does not get caught. These two men like take some plea deal or whatever, because they're the ones that are caught red-handed with this pamphlet, and Bernie has no record of anything, so they can't tie him to it in any way. So
Let me
go
say
ahead.
something. So his brother has come and also helped him in what will be their actual legitimate business, which is, so in the 70s, even though he's going to use, like Scantron paper for the rest of his life, in the 70s, he's rather known as a tech investor genius, where he sort of revolutionizes the way in which they are able to communicate and share the selling and trading of stock, because as Wa said, it was like carrier pigeons. In the 70s, computers are happening, and he also becomes one of the founding board directors of the Nasdaq, which is the stocks he was trading in the 60s. So his name in New York is in the 70s already a big deal. Someone who is known, who is on board of directors. I mean, he is
It
a
becomes
titan of the
synonymous.
financial. What?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
He's a titan in the financial world in New York. People know his name, and he has, like an air and legacy about him, and a knowledge where you're like, oh, he's talked about, and C-SPAN and whatever like that. So that's also going to be what, of course, is going to be on the legitimate side. Like, that's what he's doing with his brother. His brother comes on board at the time, as I've said.
Yeah, and he's like legitimate. Like he's legitimately doing good work on one front. He is like pushing the needle forward. His name is
Mhm.
becoming synonymous with success and wealth. I mean, he marries Ruth. He's been married to Ruth. He buys a big house. He has 2 kids. He flies to work on a fucking plane in the water. Like this man is like exhibiting, and he's very showy. Like he's interested in showing people the money up front so that they can take him seriously, because he has like the trauma of being poor when he was younger. So he is just like, putting it out there. He might be pretty gaudy or like whatever, right? And like in the 80s, Wall Street, like with the computers and the like excess of the 80s and the cocaine, blows up. So him and his brother are just like doing this thing, but also doing philanthropy work. I'm pretty sure Ruth is at every party, throwing every single event. Like they've become like the socialites and like creating this space. Go ahead.
Mm. Enter me. This is my first taste in the stock market, honey. I come in around 82. I remember, no, I remember like going into my dad's. So in the 80s, my dad was a stock broker, I think. I'm not quite sure. I don't, but like, yeah, he sold stocks with a company. Like, they'll talk about the crashes and the companies that went under, and my dad worked for all of them. Lehman Brothers, which we'll talk about, which will become Shearson Lehman Brothers, UBS, Payne Weber. These are all kind of like how Goldman Sachs is. They're all conglomerate financial institutions with people working underneath them. In the 80s in LA, I would go to visit my dad. And I remember, so before like computers were like in every office, their method of sending information was in the walls. There was vacuum
Mm.
vacuum pods.
Mhm,
Yeah, yeah,
mhm,
yeah. Like it was like a vacuum system within the walls of the place, and you would get a glass bottle
mhm.
like this, and you would whatever note. It's like someone like, my dad's secretary would be like, so and so called, or if my dad wanted to do a trade, uh 5 shares of Mac, please. I don't know if I don't know, there's no Mac, but like, put it in here, and then you put the top on and you put it in the wall, and it goes zoop. Yeah, 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 yeah. And like that's what it was. Like that was AIM, I guess. It's like I remember that, like God, I'm old. Anyway, so he's living the life, honey. The penthouse, yeah, the Montauk. He gets the Lipstick Building in 1987, which is wow. Do you know the Lipstick Building?
Yeah, I remember
Like,
seeing it.
what are your thoughts of it?
I mean, New York has a lot of interesting architecture. Some of it's very old. Like Flatiron always sticks out to me as like being this like weird corner, and like it's just so interesting that a city is comprised of different types of buildings. And yeah, it was one of those luxury buildings that it was like, dang, Like, wow, it's really high. And these office buildings, every floor is something different. So, this is high prime real estate. And so he gets this and he wants it to be so sophisticated. He wants it to be such clean lines, the newest technology always and forever. He invested so much into that. Like they show us pictures of like his his offices with like mainframes, like which are gigantic computers with the smallest screens, and then like the biggest bodies. And then like as we go through time, it's like the body gets smaller and smaller, the screen gets bigger and bigger. It's hilarious. It's very Oregon Trail versus like what we have now.
Ah,
So he had his whole family working there. I mean, and he eventually had his kids working there too. Like his brother was a compliance officer, and
which is,
so
I mean, sorry, when they said that, I was like, me and my dad were like, "Ooh, that's bad fucking news." Compliance officer is literally the person that's like supposed to be
checks
making
and balance.
sure, yeah, it just, God, everything is so shady. It's like, okay. Yeah, like, listen, in the 80s, he's living the high life, and everyone loves working for him. They're like, it's kind of yes and kind of no. Like, he's painted in both lights. There's like, look, he's great. We loved working for him. He paid for all of our airfare for our honeymoons. We would have these like fabulous fucking picnics, and like we had the best, nicest office. But also he can be really meticulous and also really kind of scary about the appearance and surroundings. Everything sort of had to be perfect. He would come in and like adjust something small, like while you were doing something. Like, he wanted no picture frames. He was very into how things looked. And then Peter, who is his brother, was sort of afraid of Bernie. So it's like, it literally says, this person says, as most people were, yeah, they're also like, the great place to work. He gives us free things and he pays for our honeymoons. Also, he's horrifying.
Yeah.
Day in and day out,
And I could easily see myself working for a place like that. I'm like, listen, the perks are great. You could be rude to me.
Well,
I just need to save up enough money to leave. So as we tried to kind of explain before, is that his job was kind of the middleman when it came to stocks, like his legitimate business. So what he did, his job was to always buy and sell regardless of what's ever happening in the stock market. In 1987, the Dow Jones plunges, Dow Jones, NASDAQ, it plunges. It goes down 200 points. And every person who is in his exact same business, every middleman type of person stops answering phones because they don't want to lose money by selling and buying stock off of people, because they're supposed to do both. But he has, like, when the stock goes down, everybody wants to sell. Those people are obligated to pick up the phone and buy bad stocks, but that does bad for their business, so they sometimes don't answer the phones to do the trade. Now Bernie was like, no, I have a reputation. I'm somebody who can weather the storm. So he then takes money from his Ponzi scheme to pay for every stock that is being sold back, or they're purchasing from these people who are just dumping stock left and right. And so because he stayed open, his employees think like, wow, Bernie's such an honest, great guy, right? Because he's willing to take the losses at this time when no one else is willing to do so. So he like rewrites the playbook on how to do good business and be a good middleman in this world, because he is always going to do right by his customer. And this really like crystallizes his reputation in the world. I mean, in the stock market, like he could do no wrong at this point, So he converts his systems in 1991. Is that what I put?
I don't know, but I'll be honest, I've been sitting here
I'm like,
staring at that note, and I don't know what that means.
At Bernie's firm, Coven. Who's Coven? That's a person. Someone starts at Bernie's firm in 1991. We're gonna know who this is.
Okay.
So anyways, he's just doing so well on both fronts. Everybody's trusting him. And this is where the FCC has the brochure. Oh, I messed this up. Sorry, guys. Pause.
Yeah. So Wah had this before, so let's get this right. So what happened was the father-in-law of Bernie had that firm, and when he left, right, there were the two accountants that ended up working with Bernie to create the two accountants, what they did is create feeder funds. They would go solicit money from people, be like, look, we have this great thing, and then from just keep going to get people, and then put that money into Madoff, and they would get fees, right? Okay, God bless. So here we are. So what ends up happening is the firm is outperforming the market because the market keeps falling sometimes. And weird thing is, Bernie just keeps making money as if there's no time or space. And it's weird, right? So, and the FCC starts to like get weirded out by it. And so that's when the accountants, for some reason, this part is confusing because one part of Bernie's success is that there's a secretness to being able to work with him, and that he won't just take your money, that he in fact just doesn't need it, and if you ask any questions he'll just let you have it back, honey, because he's so popular. And yet why the accountants made a pamphlet unless it was to truly, yeah, because they needed to get money from people, it's just like it's a incongruity, right? Like it's one of those things where it's like if you are really successful at your work, if you don't need the help, then you don't not going to need to advertise, right? But like if you ever, that's kind of a thing. So anyway, moving on. So the accountants, their pamphlet where they were like, join us, give your money and make 10% of what the market of what the market goal is, absolutely no risk. We guarantee you to make this money. The FCC looks at those pamphlets like you can't fucking guarantee people with no risk involved investments. Like literally it's wrong. You can't do it. It's like literally being like, take this pill, you'll lose all of your body weight in one day. Like it doesn't make any goddamn sense. So they get the accountants. The accountants are like, oh, yeah, we totally did that. Sorry. It's true. We had this investment firm. The guy's like, okay, well, listen, assholes, you're weird and stupid. How much money is in this stupid ass, small ass investment firm? They're like, yeah. $444 million. And the FCC is like, come again? And these guys were like 444 million, 444, 4 4s, 2 4s, 3 4s million, 3 4s and million is what we're saying to you. And so they really realize how crazy it is. But then this is like the FCC having found this out, like, doesn't put it together. They're just kind of like, oh, that's crazy. You're not registered? You should be registered. How weird of you guys. That seems weird. You should be registered. What?
Wait a minute. So here's two jokes. One is that I don't know what they're saying. Are they saying FCC? Are they saying SEC? Are they saying FDP? What are they saying? That's the truth. I don't know what they're saying. The next part is that this is what happens. So now I'm at the right notes. Forget everything I said earlier. It still happened, but I told you at the wrong time. Okay, so they go to Bernie and they're like, hey, so we're gonna need to see some records, and he's like, oh. Records, you say? Okay. And then he talks to his little Italian ball buster Pasquale, and he's like, hey, I need you to create some documents. Just create some documents and fake some shit. And so Pasquale burns the midnight oil, him and like 5 other goons, and they just create an entire list of fake ass documents, and then they turn it into the FCC. And I know that man's ball sacks had to be sweating while he watches these mans just flip through the shit, and they're like, well, seems legit. They created the thing is, so like, how are they to know unless somebody is keeping accurate records of the stock market? Because this is like the computer, we have computers in 1991, but they don't keep backlog records like that. And if they do, whoever was doing this did not want to go and get to the mainframe and search every single thing out. They would rather just believe that Bernie was okay than like doing it, because he created such a fake paper trail.
No, the thing about it is, what the what happened today in the past, right? Like if this was like Back to the Future, he made a thing that was legit in the sense, like, you can't, if I could tell you right now a bunch of trades and tell you I made you money. I could create a list of things I did and tell you I made money by going back and seeing what made money and what didn't. If I know like this made money, then I bought it. And if I know that was didn't make money, I didn't buy it. Whatever it is, I'm making a whole fake thing. And so it's like impossible a little bit to see that this would be fake because like he made those trades and you do the math and that's what it is. It a little bit reminded me of, because I was really a bad student if I didn't care about whatever I was studying, the many times in which I had to like last minute make up like a journal that I was supposed to be keeping the entire time for an assignment. Like, remember that? Like, you ever had to do something in school where like you were supposed to do something, honey, every 5 days you were supposed to like do something, and then it comes the night before, you never did it once, and then I
In
have to go,
college.
and this is like in the 90s or in the early aughts, with different colored pens to make it look like you were different days writing in what was around a blue pen. So I'll use the blue pen that day, because if you use it all one black pen, it looks awkward. Like, I would do that sometimes. I'd be like, well, today I guess I felt like writing in cursive to make it look like. But anyway, so I'm like queen of that shit anyway, but so is Pasquale. Pasquale, Connie, is going to come back. But the FC, yeah. So by the way, okay, it's my own fault. I think a lot of the time they are saying SEC, Security Exchange Commission Council, something
Company.
like that. SEC.
Oh,
But
it's
it sounds like FCC, which is something else. And so it's very, very confusing. It sounds like I'm like, he. Like it's,
it
you don't
sounds
know.
like so many different things. It's like FCC, SEC, FPD. Like, it just sounds like so many. I have so many different acronyms, and I'm talking about the same institution. I'm talking about the same government branch of like government thing, and I keep using different words, different letters. So he's just like, it's just so interesting that I where in my notes I kind of want to skip around because I want to talk about Pasquale. So he's hired this like little bulldog Italian kid with, and at some point they just start talking about how nobody that he surrounded himself with had education, and I was like, quit education shaming. So like he has this little bulldog named Pasquale who does all his dirty work, and Pasquale is relegated to the 19th floor. That is his kingdom, however. But when he's in a pickle, Pasquale doesn't want to lose that money either. He used to work at a gas station. He's like, fuck no, I'm not going back to that shit. So he he figures it out, and they end up just like fooling the SEC and going from there.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the craziest thing about the $440 million that the two little weasel accountants told him about. So because when he has these 4 big accounts, okay, these 4 big accounts know low key that he's fucking scamming, but they don't give a shit, because when they call in their debts, he provides the money based on the lies that he's told them. Is my Wi-Fi bad?
No.
Okay. Based on the lie that he's told them, he has, look, so let's say he's told them, hey, you gave me $60,000 and now I'm giving you back 70. They know he don't got that they didn't get no $70,000. So they wait for him to tell him another number. And then they tell, okay, $100,000. They're like, great, can you cash that check? And he would get the money from somewhere and pay them out. So they continued to allow him to take money and do whatever with it, because when they called in the debt, he managed to find the money. And because they did not want that to stop, he called them and he's like, hey, I need like $1.5 million from you. So if you could give that to me, that'd be great. And so they did. And they bailed him out this next time for that money.
Yep. They bailed him out again, a second bailout for this man. So because the SEC somewhat investigated him, right, and decided not to press any charges or have any fines, and it would sort of feel like the SEC at this point was like, yeah, well, everything good here. We'll put our stamp on approval on this guy. And for the average financial investor person doing it, it's like, who do you go to for any sort of trust and or security except the government in such a way? And the importance of having the state be able to regulate. So in this case, they're saying, well, the state's saying, sure, guys, yeah, this is fine. And so people are like, okay, great, it's fine. This is weird, but you guys think it's okay. I mean, I don't know, honey. I'm just like working my job at Home Depot and have this pension, but you guys think it's cool. All right, I'll do it. So people are giving money, whatever, including, as you say here, lots of senior citizens from Florida.
Yeah.
Florida, honey. Yeah, listen, he promises returns that average 9% a year, and as I said, that's great, and the SEC says that they're great in doing it, and so people are like, "Oh, cool, check and check, honey. Give him my money. Give him all the money. In fact, not just my money. I'll call my brother. Tell him what a great deal is. Get his money involved. Wow, got some money laying around because I got this great thing where you'll make money, and everyone thinks it's a great idea. Why not?
Yeah. And
Is your
so
money
he just
making you 9%? Because if it's not making 9%, then why don't you make 9? I mean, it's like it's hard because you feel almost foolish not to.
yeah. It really it lots of people, and it was all like so many different webs of how he got the money. They didn't know they were giving it to Bernie, not all of them, because
Mhm.
because of the kind of accounts they might have thought they were doing something else with it. And it was being like exchanged from one account to a mutual fund. I don't know, feeder. I'm just throwing out words I don't know. But what I'm saying is that nobody knew that it was like nobody knew that it was Bernie that they were giving it to. They just knew that it was
Hedge
some
funds.
secret hedge funds. They just knew it was some secret thing that they would give their money to, and if they needed to pull money out, they would just get the money back. And so, like, if you're a short-term person who just wants to make, if you want to put it in for 5 years and you make your 9% of whatever you put in, then you would walk away. But for those folk who wanted it to stay there for the long haul so that when they retired, they had a nice little cushion after like 10 years of 9% a year, those are the ones that were the most adversely affected because he couldn't ever call in all the debts at the same time. And his allegiance was to the Fab Four.
Yeah. I mean, and everyone starts to invest. I mean, his client roster really spans the gamut from like charities, to foundations and really rich people and famous people and not rich famous people. And, I mean, it's like it's really intense. So, the episode ends with Gus back, sorry, us back at the 17th floor, the lipstick building, honey, and we have painted the foundation and how things have become like a boiler pot where things are percolating and people are wildly investing without knowing, and it's scary, and let's just say like the avalanche is growing. It feels like there's a momentum here to what will ultimately be a huge pop in the bubble of this Ponzi scheme.
This man kept a Ponzi scheme going for 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't bust until 2008, and he started before 1962. That's like Diana Ross. You know what I'm saying? It's like Diana Ross was famous when he started that shit. Like, it's like, that's how I reference like time periods, is like who if Motown was around or not.
I do get that.
So that's the end of episode 1, you guys. We hope that you will stay on this journey with us. Like, I know that for those of you who might be financially literate, we sound like a bunch of idiots trying to talk about this. Well, I sounded like a little idiot trying to talk about this. So thank you for listening. But it's interesting. You should watch it because it's just so it will make you want to pay attention to your finances and know that at the end of the day, you might not even be able to trust the government to give you good information about who's doing what kind of business, especially when you see that somebody like Bernie Madoff, who had inquiries at least 2 times in his career, and he managed just to walk away because nobody would continuously keep their foot on his neck, and that's what he needed to happen. So all right, you guys. So if you want to see the visuals of what you heard here today, you could join us on our Patreon. It's $10 a month, and you get exclusive content, including a live every first Monday of the month where we talk about whatever we want to talk about, but we're live and it's for you. So you can communicate with us via the Patreon, have a kiki, talk about whatever you want to talk, and we'll answer because, we like you. But otherwise, you could also check us out on our socials, and Chris will tell you about that.
Oh, yeah, they exist. Just kidding. On Instagram, you can follow us at DocuSweeties. Also on TikTok at DocuSweeties. Also on Twitter at DocuSweeties1, because for some reason, I guess there was a DocuSweeties, which I'm mad about, and I'll kill him. What?
Can you say that one more time? You cut out.
Okay, so if you want to follow us, you can. We are at DocuSweeties on Instagram, at DocuSweeties on TikTok, and at DocuSweeties on Twitter. Oh no, fucked it up. At DocuSweeties1 on Twitter, and for some reason we're not at DocuSweeties on Twitter. Why aren't we at DocuSweeties on Twitter?
I don't know. Somebody else has it, and that makes us very upset.
Who
has DocuSweeties on Twitter?
Would that literally delete your account and give it to us?
Yeah, we have to be DocuSweeties1. And also, like, why would you just do it on Twitter and not everywhere else? Duh, you weird. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to us, and we hope you give us 5 stars. And we also hope that you have a good night, day. I don't know what time it is where you are and when you listen to this. We just hope you have a good one. Bye.
Keep your money. Keep your money. Keep your money. Bye.